everyone. Okay, this is another installment of bike information, bike basics, I guess. And for this one, I'm just going to answer a bunch of questions that I got through email or just by talking to you guys, and also try to cover some of the stuff that I forgot to tell you. So here we go, starting with the brakes. We were talking about the ABC check to check the air in your tires, your brakes, the cassette and chain. I forgot to mention this really important little lever that you have on your brakes. Disc brake people don't have these. These are just for us rim brake people. But right here, there's a little adjuster. And you move this, like if you're going to take your wheel off to put it in or out of the car. And when you do that, it releases the brakes. You can see the distance is really increased. So when you get ready to ride your bike, you always want to check this and make sure that it's closed all the way. Also, that space is still there, and then you spin your tire. But this is a really important thing to pay attention to for those of us who have rim brakes. Okay. Next question had to do with how to ride downhill, basically how to descend. Because a lot of people get kind of nervous when you're going a little bit faster and there's curves or there's hazards or there's things like that. So I think I talked before about wanting to ride in your drops. And the drops are basically these. This is when you're in your drops and you're going downhill, or any time that you're in your drops. That's basically where you are the most stable on your bike. It puts you more aero and it changes your center of gravity. But as always, you want to make sure you can reach your brakes when you are in this position. So if you can't, then you need to have your bike adjusted so that you can reach your brakes while you're descending. So you're down in the drops. The other thing that's kind of a trick is to grab the top tube here with your knees. So usually you're not riding with you're riding with your pedals parallel to each other like this when you're descending, and you can just clamp that top tube between your knees while you're in your drops, and it really makes you stable on the bike. And then make sure that when you're looking, you are looking somewhat down the road. I mean, you want to anticipate curves and other cyclists and cars and things like that, but mostly you want to look probably 20 feet or so in front of you so that you can see any potholes, any cracks like that are coming along, and basically pick your line. And I've talked a lot about you will ride where your eyes show you to ride, and that's true on descending too. So wherever you're looking, if you're looking at that pothole, you're going to hit that pothole. So you need to look a little bit ahead, pick a line of where you want to go, even when it's around a corner or a curve, and follow that particular, follow that with your eyes, and the bike will follow. Next question was how to ride in the wind. And there's three kinds of wind. Got a little bit of a breeze going out here right now. A tailwind, a headwind, and a crosswind. Tailwind, no big deal. Just let that wind push you. You sit up a little bit higher in your bike, so your hands will be either on your hoods or your tops, and let your body be a sail, and basically just let the wind push you any direction you want to go. It's really fun. The only bad thing about a tailwind is sometimes you just feel like you rock, right? You're like really going. So you tend to put out a little bit more energy, and then you turn around and come back and you're in headwind and you feel like you're going to die. So just take that in consideration. When things feel really easy, it might probably be because you've got a little bit of a tailwind. Riding into a headwind, that is a challenge, and that's basically the same as riding uphill, because you are just riding against pressure. And so generally what you want to do is make yourself as small as possible. So pull your elbows in when you're in your bars. Make sure your knees are in, no knees hanging out the sides, and really tighten up your core, and make sure that you keep a really high cadence. You're going to have to downshift just like as if you were climbing. And headwinds are hard, but they're really, really good training. The one that's the trickiest is a crosswind or gusts of wind, because those generally come out of nowhere and will just like blast you. So when you're on your bike all the time, but especially on a windy day and you don't really know which direction the wind is coming from, pay attention to making sure that your core is really tight. You just don't want to be floppy on your bike. It's the same thing when you're in the pool and you really want to tighten up in your core. When you're on your bike, make sure that you are really engaged all the time. So when the wind blows up, you are kind of got the strength to resist that little blast. Don't let it freak you out. Again, keep your eyes where they need to be. Keep yourself tight and low, and just sort of bear with it if you can. Okay. Basically, in my mind, there's two kinds of hazards. There's the natural hazards that occur on the road: gravel, water, potholes, rocks, any of that stuff. With that, if you can avoid, if you see a pile of gravel or if you see a big puddle, if you can avoid it, do that. You just pick yourself a way to go around it, or slow down and go slowly around it. But if you can't, and there's bicyclists coming in both directions, or you just can't get out of the way of those, again, use your eyes. You don't want to look at that gravel, because then you'll find the rock that's going to throw you off your bike. Look past the hazard, look past the water, look past the gravel, and to the other side, to where you want to go, and just ride that way. A lot of times in puddles, if I see them in time, I'll try to slow down a little bit, mainly because I just don't want to get sprayed. But you don't have to. You just get a little shower if you go blasting through it. I will slow a little bit before gravel, but I won't put my brakes on in the gravel, because that will cause your bike to slide. So again, you just have to kind of make sure you're really confident, look where you want to go, and just ride right through it. Okay, the next hazard are people hazards. That could be, can you see my little, who's over there? That includes other cyclists, that includes runners, that includes people with dogs on leashes, especially those retractable leashes, walkers, anybody. And I cannot stress the importance of announcing yourself. So it might feel kind of weird, it might feel like you're impinging on people's privacy, or they're talking or whatever, but announcing on your left really loud and really forceful to get people to hear that you're coming, so that they stay out of your way. You always have to anticipate, though, that they're not going to react. They're either listening to music or talking to each other or on another planet. Who knows? But just make sure that you announce it, sometimes more than once. When you go past them, if they've acknowledged you, you can say thank you or have a nice day or something like that. But make sure they know you're coming. There's nothing worse if, and also for us, when we're riding our bikes, that people that don't announce that they're coming, it can really scare you, especially if you're somewhere else mentally. You know, you're having a discussion with yourself or your friend, or you're listening to music or whatever. We all know what that's like. So just make sure that you really are confident the way you announce yourself, and let it rip. Cars are a totally different thing. Cars, you have to always be aware that they may be unpredictable. I don't want to totally say this, but unless you get in an argument with a car where the driver is texting, or they've been drinking, or they're just totally out of control for whatever reason, it's up to the cyclist to make sure that you're seen. So make sure that you're using arm signals. That's where you need to practice riding one-handed, so you can make sure to let the cars know you're turning, you're stopping, you're mostly those two, or even that you're just there. Just make sure that they see you. That's where you come in with a light on the back of your bike. If you're riding in a bike lane, unless it's really wide, I don't stay over in the gutter, because then the cars assume you're out of the way. I make myself seen and get out there. So I almost rather ride in the street, so they make sure they have to go around me and give me a wide berth. But that's up to everybody. That's up to an individual. I ride in traffic all the time, but that's up to your individual comfort level. Just make sure that you are seen. That's the most important thing. And use your signals. And I should have mentioned, even when you're riding with a group of your friends, make sure you use your arm signals so the people behind you know what to expect, whether it's debris in the road, whether it's you're going to turn, whether you're slowing. The arm signals are just incredibly important. And when we get together, we will practice those before we go out on any ride altogether. Make sure to, so this question was, how do you look behind, or should you look behind you? Yes, you need to be aware of who's coming up behind you or what's coming up behind you, so you can prepare yourself, because again, a lot of people don't announce or don't give you any indication that they're there. One way is with one of those mirrors that you can put on your helmet or your glasses. A lot of people are riding with those now. There's also mirrors that you can put in the the drops of your bike, so you can look down and see what's going on behind you. If you don't have a mirror, then you have to get kind of practice, and we'll practice this too. When you have both hands on your handlebars and you learn to look just to the left over your shoulder, that's one way, making sure your bike goes the right direction. If you have to do a full-on turn around, look behind you, let me show you this. The best way to do that, if you have to you're riding your bike along and your hands are in your hoods here, and you need to turn around and yell something to somebody behind you, or you want to get a really good look, you will need to take one hand off your handlebars, slide your second hand a little bit closer to the middle of your bar, so you can put one hand on your leg or whatever and turn around and see what's going on behind you. This way, you're still going to go straight. If you're over here and you have one hand off your handlebars and you're turning your whole head, there's more of a possibility that you're going to do that. So just quickly slide a little bit more to the middle so you're really stable, and then turn around and look behind you. And also practice the two-handed one where you just kind of glance over your shoulder. Okay, last question is, what do you do when a grasshopper or some other creature flies down your shirt? I've been there. Last summer I did a lot of riding out east, out by Bennett, Watkins, out in that area. And I was out there all alone, and a winged creature that was black and yellow that could do multiple stings flew down my jersey into my sports bra, and I was like hauling. And the only thing I can tell you to do is you have to just really keep your head, think about what could happen, which is fall off your bike. And I couldn't stop quick enough because I knew I'd have to clip out, and that thing had already started stinging me. It had stung me like a couple times, and the only thing I could think to do was I took one hand off my handlebars and basically grabbed that thing in my shirt. I was still riding the whole time, and then I really couldn't stop because I had one hand here and one hand on my bike. So I eventually just sort of turned my shirt inside out, and it flew out, thank goodness. But I've been stung in the legs. There's just sometimes you just can't anticipate what's going to come and find you when you're out there in nature, and you just have to be confident in yourself. Again, make sure you're looking not at the thing that's biting you, but at the road, and use your head. If you can slow and stop and get off, that's great. I mean, if it's a grasshopper, no big deal, Amy. If it's something that's stinging you, a little bit bigger deal, Julie. So again, there's not a happy answer. There's just use your head, know you're confident, you're bigger than whatever it is that's bothering you, and make it go away. Okay, I'm looking forward to seeing you guys, practicing a lot of this stuff we've been talking about. When we can see each other in person, we'll go over tire changing and how to oil your chain and all that stuff. It's just too hard to do by video. But see you soon. Take care. Bye.